What is crack-a-lackin', fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Favale coming at you with my certified fantabulous co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. In the interest of me not having to talk too much as I try to recover my voice, we are going on to Western Conference Peace or Panic, recording this very late on a Thursday night, my time, November 16th. So if anything happens of 2 nights worth of games, since this will go up on Saturday, they're not going to change most of our takes. I promise you, but just wanted to give you a heads up in case anyone takes issue. And as always, please remember to subscribe wherever you consume stuff. YouTube, Spotify, Apple are the big ones. Leave ratings and reviews. If you've done all 3 of those things, definitely join our Discord. Link to that's in the podcast and YouTube description. You can check out our merch. Link to that is in the podcast and YouTube description. All of our socials are on screen or in the podcast description. And if you've done all those things, just maybe tell people about us, share our content. We appreciate every single one of our listeners, watchers. Your support is the reason why we keep doing this, and we love interacting with you guys. And I promise I'll be active again in Discord, hopefully in the next few days as I, recoup and my personal life settles down a little bit. Grant, as I squeak, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. Did you ever have your voice crack like in an embarrassing time when everybody heard it? Like when your voice was changing?
Yeah. I think when I've given 3 best men speeches. That might be a humble brag.
Wait a minute. How old were you when you're giving best man speeches? This is what's supposed to happen when you're like 13 or something.
No, my voice cracks now all the time. It's happened on radio interviews, podcast interviews. During a best man speech, it squeaked.
That's not embarrassing though. I'm talking about like freshman year of high school or maybe earlier. I don't know when your voice changed, but I have a distinct memory of being in Spanish class and answering a question, and I forget what the word was, but it was like just yodeling basically. Everybody heard it. It was terrible.
That never happened to me as far as I can remember.
I'm a stronger man for it. So
Western Conference Peace or Panic though. Are you ready? This is Grant was the one who handled the majority of the of the Eastern. He handled the entire Eastern Conference, and I will be doing the Western Conference. And with the alphabet, we begin with the Dallas Mavericks, which not a whole lot to panic about, which I will say very impressive. I mean, everything from Luka complaining less to just their defense is not great, but like you're getting good minutes from Derek Lively. Derek Jones Jr. has been a great pickup for them. I didn't really know. And even the minutes, your solo star minutes, Kyrie and Luka, those have by and large been good. So I ended up settling on Peace or Panic, Grant, the Josh Green sort of leveling off. And I think part of this has to do with he's just playing a different role. He's logging about the same amount of minutes per game. He has been closing some games over a Derek Jones Jr. But he's averaging fewer drives per 36 minutes. His front court touches per 36 minutes are way down. And you just look at him, and they did sign him to an extension, not a huge one, 3 years, $41 million. It just feels like he's stagnated, maybe even regressed. Do you view this as he's just really trying to figure out his role in the larger ecosystem because there is just this shifting dynamic here? Or is this something to look at where maybe he's not suited for a role that calls him to play on the ball in like small bites rather than extended bursts?
Yeah, I think your concern is well-founded. And I think maybe more broadly, like, Green is still the Mavericks, I think, are short a specific player type, which is like a bigger wing that can guard, number 1 threats. And Green's not that guy. Green's like a 1 and 2 defender. So I guess like but that doesn't answer your question. No, I think it's peace. I still really like Josh Green. I think, some of the criticism he's faced is like, he's just, he's not willing enough of a shooter, and he does have these ebbs and flows sometimes where he's not as impactful as he could be. I still really like him. I think he really won me over maybe last year. He can make passes on the move. Like, he plays really hard. He's a good defender. They don't need him to be this world beater, especially when Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to shoot 40% from 3, which like, he's not going to do that all year probably, but nice little stopgap until Josh Green does kind of get more acclimated to what they want him to do. So I'm not that concerned. I guess if one thing I'm surprised by, I don't know if it's a panic thing, but I thought Jaden Hardy would have a bigger role, honestly, just because I think he's playing 11 minutes a game right now.
Probably more than Seth Curry. Just where are those minutes supposed to come from?
Not play. Well, that's the thing. Like, I thought what Dallas was going to struggle with was we just got to have a third guy that can dribble and like do stuff with the ball. And Hardy to me was going to be that guy. But Luka's played 12 games, Kyrie's played 9, and they've managed to stagger those guys well enough to where they haven't had that issue. So that's not a panic either. That's more of a surprise. But I think it's peace for me. I like Josh Green. I think Josh Green's going to be fine.
I'm mostly peace. I'm just curious to see what his offensive development looks like in the context of this team right now. The next team by alphabet, another team where, and just as the criteria here, like if it's not an overarching panic for the entire team, we're focusing on smaller elements and we're not going to burn airtime on them, even though I think we burned some airtime on random teams in the East. You're welcome, everybody, for that empty noise. So I think a lot of people would focus again on sort of the bench minutes or the bench development. That was just such a given because you lost Bruce Brown and you were relying on a lot more youth and inexperience. And now Reggie Jackson's starting because of the Jamal Murray hamstring. By the way, we're going to have to start issuing apologies to Reggie Jackson, apparently.
Yeah.
That is coming. Yeah. I am sorry, Reggie Jackson. You deserve that player option. There it is.
Oh, man.
So
it turns quickly.
My peace or panic here is Christian Braun not really building off his rookie campaign. And I think it's specifically on the offense. He's hit one corner three all year. He's facing extra traffic in the lane. And I think that's exposed his finishing and his handle. His dependence on the minutes beside Nikola Jokic this side of the Murray injury have never been more apparent. I know he's 22. The season's not yet 15 games old. And he's definitely earned patience and probably peace after emerging as this championship run swing piece as a rookie. But the path to Denver maximizing their depth rests basically on him developing into a more complete and dependable offensive player than he is right now. And I just don't think I've seen it enough. He is still a good physical presence on the defensive end. He's pitching in more on the glass. He knows how to navigate the floor away from the ball, which is huge. And I also think probably the thing that I've been most impressed with him offensively, he's throwing quicker second passes, but I think you need more from him on the offensive end. Even if you think some of the shooting is going to normalize, is it a peace or panic here for what he can be as an offensive player?
I mean,
just say Jalen Pickett's better and let's move on.
Yeah, right. I think it can't be panic because it's a second year and he was he's not like a well-rounded player, right? Like that was never part of the makeup. He was going to defend and play hard, and he did that in their finals run, and that's great. And he made a couple shots and had some highlights attacking the rim. I don't really think it was realistic to expect him to suddenly become like a league average 3-point shooter even. So this is kind of just the expectation. If I was going to panic, I think it might be more for like Zeke Naji just like isn't going to be a guy, like he just, I don't think he's going to be someone that is, we've had I'm trying to think of like the best stretch of his career. And it's just there haven't been too many. And we keep waiting because the sort of outlines of what a helpful player, like the fully realized version of Zeke Naji could be for the Nuggets are really interesting and tantalizing, but we just haven't seen it. So if I had to panic about someone, I'm not even sure I'd panic about him, but like it's definitely more towards him than either Braun or Brown. Yeah, I've been so good about not calling him Christian Braun, but then I was just looking at his name and I had to do it. Christian Braun.
It's only messing you up when you look at his name,
right?
Not when you're just talking about him because you see it there.
Because it's the word Braun. Sorry, I read it correctly. Yes, and also sorry to Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, man. So the Golden State Warriors, I mean, fuck, where do we begin with them? I think, look, the Steph Curry, the knee injury, that's certainly something that we could focus on here. I'm going to go more macro and say the demise of their best lineup. Last year, the starters, Clay, Steph, Wiggins, Draymond, and Kevon Looney outscored opponents by 145 total points. That was the second highest mark in the league, trailing only Denver's starting five, and yet the Warriors starting unit logged less than half as many minutes. This season, Grant, that unit is a -17 in its floor time with a disastrous net rating. Now opponents are shooting 83% at the rim and 53% from three against that lineup. I'm assuming that won't hold. That seems a little high, but
A little bit.
Klay Thompson has been bad. Andrew Wiggins has by and large been bad. And it's super cool that they're still winning the minutes Chris Paul plays without Steph Curry. This is going to be the first time in Curry's career when he's playing healthy, because there's been another season, I think it was 2020, he played 140 minutes, but he was injured. That team was going nowhere. The Warriors right now are on track for the first time in Steph Curry's career, if he plays in a real amount of games, to be worse with Steph Curry on the court than they are with him off the court. And that's not a Steph Curry thing.
No.
Is this a piece or panic?
I think
Do it. Do it.
With specific respect to the Wiggins, Klay Thompson piece of things, and they are both in that unit that you referenced, that is a panic. And the Klay Thompson thing, I think some of this was evident last year. And again, like, this is such a shitty thing to have to talk about, because the guy suffered like the two worst injuries you can have, and he made it back, and he contributed to a fourth title, which is just like legend stuff, right? Like, amazing. But the fact is, he is not moving well, is forcing shots, is struggling to defend. Thompson has just not been a helpful player so far. And Wiggins has been, I got to believe that there are Minnesota Timberwolves fans out there like going like, yeah, now you know, like, now you understand, because he's again, and he had, not a great year last year either. There was off the court stuff that kept him away from the team. He had an illness too. Like, so you want to be sympathetic. And it seems as if he came into camp out of shape. I think that's been alluded to several times, but he's just been a non-factor, has floated in and out of games. And that first unit is just not going to be what it was without those two guys playing the way that they used to. And I say used to, and not playing like they can, because I'm not sure that they can play that way anymore. So it is, yeah, you're right. Like, it was awesome when the second unit was like winning games for them, because the expectation was, well, the starters will just again be the best 5-man unit in the league, because they were last year. They're eventually going to win the Curry minutes, just because Curry can't continue to play this well and have, negative on-off impact stuff. Like, they'll switch the guys around him, and that'll, fix the Curry minutes. But it's not the same now when the starters and those two wings in particular have been so bad as it was earlier in the year. And you'd say, goddamn, wait until the starters are great again, and Chris Paul in the second unit is winning those minutes. The Warriors are going to have a plus 15 net rating on the season. They're going to win 1 million games. Like, now it's, how do we make it so Wiggins and Klay aren't negatively impacting the bottom line every time they're out there. And we're recording this as the Warriors are about to lose to the Thunder. And Klay is 1 for 10 last I looked, and Wiggins has been okay, but not shooting free throws. Like, so it is panic. It is panic for those two guys in particular. And then I guess by extension, the Warriors, because then you're saying, all right, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, you guys are going to take those spots over. The second unit's worse now. So it is a pretty early panic, but having watched both of those guys, Wiggins and Klay, like every minute they've played this season, they're not the same. And maybe that'll change, but right now it's panic worthy to me.
Do you consider making a change to that lineup, or even do you consider making a change to the crunch time pecking order? Now,
you absolutely have to consider it. I think Wiggins is much easier to demote, if you want to use that term. Thompson, it's just not that simple. Like, and he's the one that I think has been worse of the two, honestly. They both have really struggled. I just don't know how that conversation goes, because I think Thompson is like just so prideful and just has been such a staple and has so much equity with, like, you might not be able to bench Thompson because Steph Curry and Draymond Green will say, no, we believe in this guy. You have to keep playing him. Like, there's so many different sets of dynamics at play with him that it might just be easier to play Wiggins less and play Kuminga more or Moody more. But you have to think, I guarantee you they've had conversations. Like, if it hasn't been brought up yet, that seems crazy to me, because it's just nakedly obvious that neither of those guys are playing well. Like, they don't, if it's just on merit, they're not playing well enough. That's the bottom. The on-off numbers are showing that, as are all of their individual stats.
The Houston Rockets, what is there to panic about? Peace or panic about with them? Peace or panic? Can they afford to pay Alperen Sengun $1 billion in his contract? So I settled on Fred VanVleet's 2-point shooting, which is improved of late, and he's still shooting 40.3% on twos. That's, he's never been a great finisher, but like even by these standards, he's been off. He's actually shooting better, Grant, on twos outside of 14 feet. He's made 10 of 20. On twos inside of 4 feet, he's 11 of 24.
That seems wrong.
He's shooting 36.1% on drives. That's a bottom 10 mark among 108 players who are averaging at least 5 drives per game. Now, the caveat here is when he's driving, defenses react. It's opening things up for everybody. And he still does a lot of good things off the ball that it's helped out Alperen Sengun. It's helped out Jalen Green. It's helped out Jabari Smith. It's helped out Dylan. It's helped out everything. But I've also wondered, because of the 2-point stuff, like the inefficiency, I wonder if that's factored into why Houston tethers him to Alperen Sengun so much, to where you don't see a lot. They're more inclined to stagger Jalen Green from those two. That might say more about what we're trying to develop Jalen Green. Is it peace or panic on Fred VanVleet's 2-point shooting, though?
I guess I don't think it can be a panic, because this just is pretty much who he's always been. You look back at his shooting at the rim every year, and it's just like, yeah, he's at 46%. I think you said some of this, but he's never really been above the mid 50s, and that's really bad at the rim. So he's not big enough. He's a small guard that doesn't, have elite quickness. And so that's just never been a great part of his game. I think the Sengun piece of it, though, like solves a lot of it, because then VanVleet can just be more of a spot up guy and a ball mover, and you can run everything through, or not everything, but a lot more through Sengun, and you get away with it. So yeah, I can't panic there, but like you would like your starting point guard to make more than half of his shots at the rim. That would be good.
Hey, if he's gonna shit 50, wow, if he's gonna shit 50% on long twos, like,
so I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the way he's shooting.
There's just, the Rockets are so good right now. I know there's nothing to peace or panic. There's nothing to panic over. So I'm peace there because look, the other thing is, even if the inefficiency sustains, it's not just a matter of, well, you kind of expected this. Let's just say it kind of hovers around this low. He's just doing enough other stuff to where it's yeah, cool, whatever. Next team, they might warrant a little bit more discussion. The Los Angeles Clippers. I think it's the peace or panic over the hapless start to the James Harden era. And they are 0-6 since the trade, 0-5 with Harden in the lineup. Only 2 teams since the trade are averaging fewer points per possession than the Clippers, and it's the Blazers and the Spurs. And when the big 4 are on the court, they're playing more like a frighteningly foul 4. The Clippers are getting outscored by 16.5 points per 100 possessions with an offensive rating, Grant, in the 1 percentile.
Not good.
You can do other stuff where if you yank Russell Westbrook, the data with Paul George, James Harden, and Kawhi Leonard in a very limited sample, excellent without Russell Westbrook. You have no hope of playing with any pace should you do that. Are you worried? We've had James Harden say we're going to be scary once things get it together. Is it a peace or panic for real, though, based off what we've seen from the LA Clippers, or does Daniel Tice solve everything?
You took my answer. If you say it's peace, hypothetically, you're betting on this being an issue of, well, Harden, he's not in shape, so I don't know why we're excusing him for that one, but okay, maybe that's it. And he's got to learn these guys' tendencies because he is the system, and so he needs to, once he really dials in and gets enough reps, he's going to just figure out where these guys like the ball, and he'll get it to them all the time. He led the league in assists last year. He can do it. Like, if you say peace, you're just assuming that that your eyes are lying to you, and Harden does not look really terrible. And 2, that, all of these problems are just going to get fixed as the losses mount. It has to be panic. I think we had a fairly measured conversation about this when the trade happened, of like, well, in theory, Harden can do X, Y, and Z for the Clippers. It kind of makes some sense. He can be an innings eater. He can do all this other stuff. There were some I don't know, pathways to justifying the trade and coming up with like good outlooks. I think we're fair about that. But now, the numbers, the record being what it is with him there, and the optics being what they are, I don't know how you do anything but panic, because just from an organizational standpoint, like you kind of that was all your ammo now, and now he's facing free agency, and you're gonna. I mean, part of the reason he wanted to be there, maybe all of the reason, is because he thought this like bottomless pocketed owner will pay me, in free agency, and maybe that happens, and they're gonna run it back with these guys, because George and Leonard will get new deals too. Yeah, it's panic. It's just like, I don't have any faith that Harden can be as good as he was last year. And there's a great chance he's just going to be way, way worse because of how his age and like the way he's taking care of himself, and how difficult it is to fit with him sometimes. So yeah, like how do you get to peace on this? If you've got any peace, I'd love to hear the explanation.
There's no peace, because it's, even if I do think they're going to be better than dog shit. We know that
they might win a game at some point.
Yeah. And so, but the baseline is winning or contending for a title. And that's where the panic sets in. And look, I'm not here for the James Harden talking about, I didn't have a training camp. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
You didn't go.
You chose not to have a training camp. This wasn't some injury that kept you out of the Sixers refusing to let you be at training camp. And look, that is part of the reason why it's more of a panic, where if this trade had gotten done to where you could have gone through a training camp with James Harden, then maybe you would have understood more of it might have been easier to sort out the pecking order, lineup combinations that work here. So it's absolutely a panic, because they'll win a game, but they're not a title contender.
No.
The Los Angeles Lakers, peace or panic, man, you could go a bunch of different ways here, and I tried not to focus on health. I went with Austin Reaves' development. He's been a lot better since coming off the bench, but the fact that you had to bring him off the bench in the first place, the fact that the minutes when he plays without LeBron have been bad, the fact that the minutes when he and AD play without LeBron have been absolutely terrible. It looks like he's just pressing a little bit more with, what I've thought about too much? That Boban commercial? He bounced the ball. He bounced the ball. Yeah, I feel like that a lot watching Austin Reaves now on offense. And I don't, he's hit more of his threes than I thought he would, but kind of just the off-ball movement, even the stuff he's done on the ball, he has not looked great defensively overall this season. If you're the Lakers, the contract is, even if he's not the player you thought he was, the contract's irrelevant. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's not the best bargain in the NBA, like a lot of people thought. But are you at a peace or panic when you're looking at his development this season? And look, he has like a 69 true shooting percentage since coming off the bench.
Yeah, I think I guess if there's panic, it's because I guess there's a little panic, because I just thought, well, this is this team's third best player. He's going to improve on last year. And he's just going to be not an all-star, but he's going to be a really like high-end starter. Just because he's so efficient, and he is still efficient, by the way. You said it. And I just thought he would take a step forward. That hasn't happened. I think that's kind of the case. Like Max Christie, remember how much breakout buzz Max Christie had? And he's playing 14 minutes a game and hasn't hit a shot all year. It feels like 18% from three for him. Cam Reddish is playing way too much. Every time I turn the Lakers on and it's the fourth quarter, Cam Reddish is in the game. That's not great. And that's, I think, an indicator of, and this is also because Gabe Vincent's been hurt. It's just like a lot of the guys that I expected would make major impacts have not done it. And some of the guys that I thought would be not helpful, like D'Angelo Russell, like Taurean Prince, and like Cam Reddish, are like actually contributing a lot. I think Rui Hachimura has been disappointing too. So actually, as I look at it, Hachimura
has also been like very unhealthy for the most part.
Yeah, he's only played 8 games. So I guess to specifically answer it, a little bit of panic about Reaves, and then more like, it's not peace or panic, but kind of confusion about like who's been the primary non-star contributors so far and who hasn't. It's not met my expectations for sort of like how this roster was going to be, I don't know, deployed, I guess would be the word.
The also I don't want to say this is the better peace or panic, but the fact that the Lakers have lost the minutes where all three of LeBron, AD, and Reaves are on the court, like that's also something to monitor. They've normalized like a little bit, but and I don't know that their defense has been really bad. They're not getting burned from opponents are shooting 62% at the rim in those minutes and 37% from three. That's not, those are numbers that might change a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird because those three guys should work perfectly together. I feel like that's just kind of noisy because Reaves is like a great secondary creator. He's going to make open shots. You think he's a smart cutter. Like he should work
He was just
perfectly
so
with those.
bad to start the year, though. That's why they got rid of him
Right.
and the other look. Maybe like a third piece or panic here. So the LeBron James minute limit has.
Oh, we should. I mean, that was the one, right? It's tapered off. He's down to 33.9 minutes per game now. But like the way the year started with him was like they're gonna run this guy into the ground by December. Like that.
Yeah,
That
and
was
look, he's lucky. He would be much higher. And we could say this about, well, you're throwing in this random caveat. If he doesn't play like, what was it, 22 and a half minutes in that 27-point win over the Grizzlies,
right.
he's averaging over 35 minutes a game
Yeah.
at this point in the season. And I know people like to troll LeBron at this point. They get mad that there's so many highlights shown of him in games that he loses. As we get closer to the end of just LeBron playing,
Yeah.
he's in his age 39 season. The fact that he can do anything, like just get these chase down blocks, I'm in awe.
The fact that he's on an NBA roster at 39 is like a marvel, let alone that he can play minute totals in the 30s and still like win them games in fourth quarters, which, like
it's problematic and also amazing at the same
right.
time.
We really got to recalibrate like some of the, like, it's kind of insane to point out like what he's not as good at anymore. Like you see, it's like,
or when people are like, well, the NBA should drug test him. I don't fucking care if he's taken every performance enhancing drug under the sun. The fact that he's playing like this in his age 39 season, I'm fine with it.
Pretty amazing. That's what people come to. If you want the really like in-depth analysis, you come to this podcast to hear us say like it's amazing that LeBron's really good at 39. That's what we're here for. No, it is though. Like it's not. It feels insane to say we don't talk about it enough, but like it sort of is.
We predominantly, I don't know if we do this on purpose, or maybe we consume so much content where it's everyone's talking about the Lakers and the Knicks and those aren't the teams we try to focus on every team, but like we don't talk about the Lakers a lot.
No, we don't. And maybe we should. I don't know. But yeah, so he's 39. It's so stupid. How does he do this? Unbelievable.
The next team is the Memphis Grizzlies, and my peace or panic for them is everything.
Yeah.
Especially post Marcus Smart's now dealing with an ankle injury. The offense is bad. The defense has regressed. I think that might be, I can't bring myself, because there's a root cause of everything. A lot of it's the injury. Steven Adams, right knee surgery. Ja still serving the 25-game suspension. Brandon Clark, left Achilles injury. Derrick Rose, left knee soreness. Marcus Smart, ankle injury. Aldama has missed time this season. The wing rotation is suddenly too reliant on Zaire Williams again. Xavier Tillman missed some time. You had to sign Bismack Biyombo. The one that I'm kind of looking at, because Ja Morant's return is not going to fix this, are they better than a bottom 12 defensive team? Just because you have Marcus Smart, you have Jaren Jackson Jr., opponents are shooting over 42% on three. So look, they concede threes by design, but you're not going to have opponents shoot 42% from three all year. They're fouling more. They're struggling to crash the glass. They're not matching up as well in transition after they miss shots. And that's a symptom of, okay, if Ja Morant comes back, you're going to give your defense more time to get set because your offense is better.
Yes.
But man, is it, if you want to go the defense, the macro route, does this team have a path to salvaging its season?
So I think it gets harder with every loss. I think, and so my reason to panic would be like the hole's just going to get too deep, and if and when, say Morant's back in 25 games, say it takes him 15 more to like really, that's half a season. You're starting, God knows how many games under 500 you're going to be by then. It may just be a question of like, they just run out of time. I still think that if you got you're not getting Adams back, and that's huge. We've talked a lot about how, under the radar valuable he is, especially to them on offense, which is weird, but that's just the offensive rebounds and the screen setting. That's a huge part of why they're successful. I still think that if you had everybody else back and relatively healthy, the team, this is a team that on paper is still like Jaren Jackson Jr. is still a defensive player of the year caliber guy. Desmond Bane's really good. John Morant, if he's healthy, is awesome. I think we still like a lot of their role guys, Aldama, Conchar, Roddy, Kennard. Like there's guys, I mean, maybe Zaire Williams finally does do something. Like there's all these pieces. So I guess like I'm not going to panic yet. And like that's nuts to say about a team that I think has been has been the most disappointing team in the league so far this year. That's just because I think when they're healthy, they can be really good. I guess if I do panic, it's about they're just going to run out of time. And, by the time that happens, it'll be too late.
I'm doing this for you, Grizzlies fans. I'm going to panic because everything I say about the Grizzlies, the inverse seems to happen.
There you go.
So I kept hitting their under. They went over. I hit their over this summer. They're going under. I'm gonna panic because that means they'll probably win the championship. But
you're doing a public service. I mean, you mentioned the opponent 3-point shooting. It's ridiculous. Did you give the specific, like 42.1% overall? That's the worst in the league. Non-corner threes, 41.2. Corner threes, opponents are hitting 46.6% of their like. I mean, that comes down to league average, and I think, what are they, 20th on defense right now? Then suddenly you're already like 12th or 13th if that stuff normalizes. So I think I would be surprised if the Grizzlies are not a top 10 defense at the end of the year, and like top 5 is very much in play to me. But again,
they are relative to the league average, giving up a lot of wide open threes.
Yeah, that's not great.
44.5% though opponents are shooting on wide open threes. That's gonna come down, I would imagine.
You would think.
A team that I can't really bring myself to panic over because we both said that they were one of the greatest teams alive before we went into the season. The Minnesota Timberwolves. I think the focus here, you could go in a lot of different offensive directions. Mine's on Karl-Anthony Towns' 3-point volume, not Karl-Anthony Towns, the player. I know, just for anyone who thinks that we're going to dump all over Karl-Anthony Towns, there's just too much vacillation here. He takes 12 3-point attempts in a win over the Warriors. Then he takes 4 in a loss to the Suns. He attempted only 3 in that first game against the Warriors. He attempted 7 against the Spurs. So for the season, like the volume is right in line with where he's been in other years. 6.4 3-point attempts per 36 minutes. That needs to be closer to 10. And the Minnesota Timberwolves are 24th in 3-point attempt rate. They're 24th in 3-point percentage. There's a path where you can look at some of the guys on their roster and say, well, yeah, they'll start to shoot better from 3. We have, Karl-Anthony Towns himself is shooting under 34%. We have Kyle Anderson shooting only 20% on no volume. But like, you're also getting Naz Reid is shooting 44.4%. Jaden McDaniels is shooting 37%. Anthony Edwards is at 37.1%. The extra volume and efficiency needs to come from Towns. And it's not so much, I like a lot of what he's done on offense when he's attacking from above the break into those drives, but you need that 3-point volume to open up the floor for everybody else. And also to help win not the possession game, but like that's a way to just drum up your offensive efficiency because those shots are inherently going to be worth more when you're as good as a shooter as Karl-Anthony Towns is. And so I guess it's peace because the Timberwolves are really good, but I think that Karl-Anthony Towns number and consistency on the volume from deep needs to be significantly higher.
Yeah, I think it's probably peace, but it's not something you totally gloss over because to me, it's still indicative of the bigger concern with this team, which is that the pieces are like clunky fitting together. And it's like some nights Towns is going to be positioned well. It'll make sense for him to shoot a high volume of threes. Other nights he's kind of trying to navigate, Edwards being on the ball and Gobert being in the way. And just, I think if you're going to panic about it, it's because of that. It's because of like a macro issue of like, this is still like a weird setup in terms of the starting personnel, just the 2 bigs, I guess, mainly. But I'm not going to panic about that. What I will say is I didn't buy their defense the last time we talked, and having watched a lot more film on them, they're still number 1 in defensive efficiency. I don't think they're going to be the best defense in the league, but I think like top 7, top 5.
You're late on that.
I know.
You told me no when I said
sold it. I sold their start based on their defense regressing. Anthony Edwards on the ball can just be an absolute menace. And then you also have McDaniels. It's just like, I think the defense is much closer to legit than I gave it credit for. So just want to put that out there.
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to
On
be
to
here.
the New Orleans Pelicans. Sorry. I still have to, are there words that you say in your head that like you have to think about? Because I'm so conditioned to, and there was a listener of this podcast used to get on me about it because I would say New Orleans. Now I say New Orleans a lot more consistently, but I have to, when I'm saying it, I'm thinking about it.
Is that a New York thing? Do you think?
Probably.
Is that? I wonder if it's a New York thing. Now I'm going to think about it. I say New Orleans. I think. Yeah, I don't know.
You say New Orleans. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never noticed you saying New Orleans. So the New Orleans Pelicans. Look, I'm not peace or panicking the health just because here's what I'm peace or panicking. The problem with the Pelicans is the question's supposed to be, are they going to be healthy enough to be good? Not, are they actually good when they're healthy? And so this was inspired by Shamit Dua from the In the Know Substack and podcast. He does great work. Go check him and Mason Ginsberg out on that podcast. When you look at the data with their two best players in quotes on the floor or off the floor, Ingram and Zion on the floor together, minus 6.7 net rating. Zion on, Ingram off, minus 10.7 net rating. Ingram on, Zion off, minus 12.1 net rating. Ingram and Zion both off, 3.3 net rating. Now, there have been injuries. CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, even Herb Jones. That can skew the results. Here's what I will then focus on. You're losing the minutes both Ingram and Zion are playing. I do not care about the context of those lineups. You need to win those minutes. And here's the thing about those minutes, Grant. This is not some, opponents are shooting 80% from three. No, you're not getting burned by that. Shamit pointed out in his newsletter that the ball is really sticking in Brandon Ingram's hands and that they've gotten away from point Zion. Accurate. And then you have Zion saying that he's kind of trying to fit in or find his fit or whatever it is. That's a red flag for what is going on there. And I don't know who to blame for it. You know how high I am on the full strength Pelicans. I'm in full blown panic now. I will say, if you want to calm down, the Pelicans won the minutes by 17.3 points per 100 possessions with them on the court last year. You can still get to that point in theory, but I don't care about the injuries. The fact that you're losing the minutes with both of them on the court, and then the fact that you're not winning the solo minutes for either of them is pretty problematic.
So is there a chance, it's panic for me, is there a chance that we will look at New Orleans being whatever they were, second in the West? I distinctly remember us talking about them as, are they the biggest threat to, I guess, Denver whenever this was last year, 30 something games into the season. Are we going to look at that stretch like we look at that Chicago Bull? The Bulls are first in the East through whatever it was, and we're just going to try to get back to that over and over. And we'll always have that 30-game stretch where they were really good. I think it's a little different than that, but to your point, the theory of the Pelicans, to me at least, is a healthy Zion on the floor means our offense is really good, and just it doesn't matter who else is out there. You can't handle him. Like 25 points a game on 60% shooting. It's like him and one other guy in history that have ever done that. He's an offense unto himself. He's like that kind of player. And you laid it out. Like, to me, I was looking this up as you were talking. You think you got
you
there.
weren't listening to me with rapt attention.
I was looking up the exact thing you were talking about independently. So I don't even have to listen to you anymore because we've talked enough that our brains process information at the same speed. So the Pelicans offense with Zion on the floor is 106.3 points per 100 possessions this year. That is a 12th percentile offensive rating with
good?
Zion on the floor.
Is that good?
So that's good if numbers were backwards.
Okay.
If numbers worked opposite to how they do. So the theory of the Pelicans, at least as I saw it, is like, well, that's not working. So, I mean, the injuries are a factor for sure. We have to throw that in there. But also, like, this, we're not this kind of podcast necessarily, but like, Zion is failing the eye test to me. He looks less athletic than he ever has. He's not as overpowering. He's not as quick. The ball, he's not making the same reads. Like, he just physically doesn't look as good. And maybe that's the layoff. But maybe that's the new normal. And maybe like Duke Zion is never coming back, which has kind of always been how I thought things would go bad for him, is like the athleticism just becomes less than A+, and then he's not the same guy. Anyway, it's a panic for like all of the 14 reasons we've just listed. I would be extremely concerned if I were the Pelicans.
On to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'm going to do two here because I think that this one's going to piss off a lot of Thunder fans, and I do hope that people who listen to this podcast understand that we typically don't go this route. The Josh Giddey start, and it will ring a little hollow because he's put together a couple of good games in a row. He looks out of place a lot of the time in the offense. He's shooting and he's been more efficient lately. He's still shooting just 55% at the rim, 19% from three entering that game against the Warriors, including only 20% on catch and shoot triples. His long range volume has declined year over year once again. And while he's not upping his mid range jumpers as a result, the higher share that he's picking up around the basket, it's not bolstering his efficiency. The in-between looks that he tosses up on the move, they can still be a weapon. They're just still too inconsistent. He's shooting just 32.1% on floaters so far. And I think there are still moments of brilliance peppered in. This is someone who has great vision. He's a pretty good rebounder. I don't want to say I think he's underrated defensively, but I think he holds up defensively based in the role that they want to put him in. However, defenses don't treat him like a threat. And I think that makes life harder on the offense a lot of the times. I also think it's a big reason, and the other big reason is Jalen Williams is just so good. Oklahoma City's been more willing to let Jalen Williams pilot units without SGA and Giddey than Giddey without Jalen Williams and SGA. And so if you have to do that type of maneuvering when you have Case and Wallace, who's just so much more plug and play, I wonder if this becomes more of an existential question. Now, Josh Giddey proved to me last year, and I was not out on Giddey, but I was lower than consensus on Giddey. I was lower than you on Giddey, I believe.
Yeah.
He showed last year that he could fit in to, playoff Shea, playoff J-Dub. So I'm hopeful that this is not a panic for me. And I think some people will be mad that we're even monitoring it. So he's proven he could do it. But it is something that matters now. And it is something that is impacting how they run their team. The other thing would be, and this is for, again, I hope Thunder fans who might be listening to this for the first time aren't mad that we went the Giddey route. I think it's a legitimate question. Is it peace or panic on how is the bench kind of standing out beyond Case and Wallace and Isaiah Joe? There's all these sort of scattershot minutes when you're looking at how much, Kenrich Williams and Jalen Williams missed a bunch of time and now they're back. Is there a peace or panic when you're looking at the experimental mode of this team? Wouldn't you like to see them cement more of a regular rotation rather than experimenting so much? Now, the answer to both of these for me, I want to be clear, it's just going to be peace because they're so good already. Yeah. But the Thunder are now entering the conversation where Sam Presti was a liar, where they might just be really good now. Yeah. And so do you want to have more affirmative answers to this rotation stuff? And look, I will say, if you still want to do the all over the place experimental rotation, then I'm going to panic over Ousmane Dieng's minutes so far. That'll be the thing I panic over.
I was worried for a minute that we were going to get all the way through that and you weren't going to advocate for Ousmane Dieng. I'm glad we got there. So the Giddey thing, I think I'm still a little higher maybe than you are, but I'm certainly not as high. You see him talked about as if he's, on the level in the same breath as Holmgren, Williams, SGA. That's just, he's kind of a notch below that. And it's because of the shooting. He's still 21.
Yeah.
So it's it's weird because he's so young, but it feels like the Thunder, it's well, I mean, these guys have been here forever. We're done with development. These guys need to win, it makes it harder to excuse that, but I guess I just fall back on if by 23, and the Thunder will have to make a decision on him before that because of how NBA contracts work. But if by 23, 24, he's someone that can just make spot up threes. I think I really like him still as a player. I don't know if he's necessarily a core piece or a definite starter on the fully realized version of this team, But then like who is other than Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and SGA? Like even Dort, I could see like being a bench piece in theory if in a couple years. So it is an issue. Like he's shooting 19% from three, Giddey is. And like, I think you could argue too, he's kind of positioned to, it's easier to hide his flaws because of the way the Thunder play offensively, which is to say like drive, kick, drive again. And like, so he's not in a position where there have been two really good drives. The ball is kicked out and you have to hit this open three. He's just going to drive it again and probably make a good pass. So like in a more conventional offense or an offense that attacked the rim less relentlessly, he might be more exposed because it's just fully acceptable no matter what. If you just attack and kick, like that's what the Thunder want to do. So it's been a rough year. His age makes me want to pause a little bit before I get too concerned about it. But I think at the same time, like someone like to get back to Jang, if Jang becomes who he might be able to be, he makes way more sense than Giddey does, right? Like as a complementary piece to the Thunder stars. So yeah, I mean, I guess, and then to answer the second one, I'm not panicking about like, why are we experimenting with so many different guys when you should be trying to find 8 or 9? But like Jang would just be pretty close to the top of that list if I were going to criticize the Thunder for, messing around with the rotation.
And I think the thing with Giddey that's most, I don't know if it's troublesome, but something to monitor here is that when in theory, there should be too much overlap between him and Shea, but he's so, it feels like reliant on the attention that Shea commands, even when he doesn't have the ball, you almost need to insulate him with that, having that type of star power around him, which is why you might trust J-Dub more to run those independent units. And the other thing they didn't have room to include, and I was writing about it, but I should have mentioned while I was talking it. So Giddey's shooting 52.9% on twos with Shea on the floor. He's at 31% when Shea's off the floor.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's good that they can play together, but the idea of him should be that he can run. Like, does it actually matter? Especially, and I think the reason this is relevant is because he's going to command, in theory, max or near max money in an extension this summer. Is it like it's almost encouraging that, his efficiency is better with Shea on the court? That's great. But if you're going to invest in a player to that degree, you need them to be more independent than he is right now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's so weird because as a playmaker, he's just incredible.
Do you think I wonder if maybe this is obvious, but Giddey makes more sense to me as like a de facto point guard on a team with a bunch of shooters, right? Like, doesn't that seem like a bigger Ricky Rubio type of setup? Or like, that's not a great comparison, but like that seems like the position he ought to be playing. Whereas now he's on a team with at least 2, and depending on Chet, maybe 3 better self-sufficient scorers, than he is certainly. And I just wonder if the fit's always going to be a little bit strange unless he becomes a knockdown 3-point shooter. And then, we don't have any problems on offense at all. Then it's just, can he hold up defensively? And is he someone that the Thunder will look to upgrade on as they like really try to kind of get out of the developmental stage and into we're contending now. You can't have Giddey being someone guarding the other team's I guess it'd be third best player. That's not gonna cut it.
And that's, by the way, it's not saying that like J-Dub is God. Like when you have
that's what I say. That's me that says that.
When you have J-Dub and Giddey on the floor without Shea, you're still getting smashed right now. I mean, this is more, but Shea's just really good. There's the analysis you come here for.
We got it. We circled all the way around to the correct point about the Thunder. Shea is good. So
the next up is the Phoenix Suns, which should be, is that right? Did I skip a team? No. Phoenix Suns. See, I'm so confident in my alphabet ability right now. The Phoenix Suns, I mean, I wanted to be trendy and focus on, not trendy, but hip and cool and be like, well, look at Kevin Durant's usage rate in the fourth quarter or his minutes per game, or look at how much the Suns are getting outscored by in the fourth quarter, or look at Yuta Watanabe, how hesitant he is on offense, or the use of Nurkic layups. Everything comes back to the absence of the big three playing together. They have yet to play together. Bradley Beal was that late scratch before the Wednesday night game. If I understand that availability was always kind of caked into the concerns with them, we're a month into the season, basically. They've yet to play together. And now that kind of accounts for all the other issues that they're dealing with here. They have the worst fourth quarter point differential by a mile right now. And yes, okay, it comes back to if they had star power, you wouldn't be as reliant on Jordan Goodwin minutes or live and die when he actually does play by them. You wouldn't matter about, Josh Okogie has his good games, then he has his bad games, and it feels like it's impacting you a lot more. They wouldn't be bottom 3 in turnover rate if Devin Booker had played more. But that still leads into all of this of, is it peace or panic with, one, the collective availability of their star power, and then two, of the roster construction to where it's, should they have leaned a little bit more in to defense at the 5? Should they have been more aggressive in acquiring or keeping a secondary ball handler, because they did have Cameron Payne on this team?
I think if you take the longest possible view within the season of this, you can still talk yourself into peace because it's November and this team exists solely to win a championship, because you don't put these 3 guys together if you're just trying to like win a round or 2 in the playoffs. And you could make the case that as long as those guys are ready by then and the playoff seed is not so low that it's like impossible, the run is just too difficult to get there, you have to make it in from the play-in or something and never have home court, then you can't really panic. But it is a panic for me, and it's because it's twofold. One is like, these guys have not played yet together. That's not great. We're a dozen games in almost. But the related part of that is Kevin Durant has been the Iron Man. He's playing just under 37 minutes a game. He's played 11 games so far. You're only getting 40 of them at over the course of the full year. I have to know what you're laughing at.
I want to know how long it's been since someone called Kevin Durant an Iron Man.
That's what I'm saying. That's the problem, Dan. He's been an Iron Man. He's capped at like 45 games per year since the Achilles. And so now you've used up a quarter of the games you're going to get out of Kevin Durant just based on his history, and you're running him into the ground. And so by the time Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are healthy, like the back thing for Beal is like, that's a concern to me, because it's like, apparently it's flaring up and that's why he didn't play on Wednesday. And he was like, that could linger. I don't know. We can't pretend like we're orthopedic surgeons here, but
I think that's the panic would be, okay, what's going on with Bradley Beal's back there?
But if we would agree that if Durant is not healthy, like this whole thing is never getting off the ground at all. And if what you're doing to get by in November and December is play Durant 37 minutes a game, like that is not going to work, because at some point Durant is going to miss significant chunks of the season, because he always does. And I think you might be accelerating, the arrival of that first injury for him by playing him like he's not 35 with, a million miles and like, missing half of every season for the last like 4 or 5. Like it's a related concern, the two things. Like Beal and Booker missing time just makes it harder for Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant is the one of those 3 I think you need the most if you're trying to win a title.
Ooh, no.
No?
It's Devin Booker. I think when you look at what's happened in the fourth quarter and kind of what happens to KD when he's getting all these bodies thrown at him, Devin Booker's playmaking and movement away from the ball and his ability to generate more pressure away from the ball is more important than what KD is doing. And I think, honestly, I won't say it's not even close. And I think Kevin Durant's defensive impact, but what Devin Booker does defensively now too. By the way, Devin Booker in his 2 games has contested like 15 shots at the rim.
Well, he needs to quit trying so hard so he doesn't get hurt. No, you're right. Devin Booker is more important.
I know I'm right. I'm always right.
But we would definitely agree that if you don't have one or the other of those 2, you must have both. If like Beal, honestly, you could probably get away with, like, he's clearly the third best player of that group. If you don't have Durant or you don't have Booker, you're just like, you're done.
Both. Yeah. It's not the whole idea of the big 3 is when you were in Brooklyn with Kevin, not you specifically, when you were on the Nets team that had Kyrie, Durant, and James Harden, I think you could have said Durant was the guy you needed. But if you had Kyrie, if you had any combination, like 2-man combination of those 3, you would have still felt okay about their chance to be a threat. it's Devin Booker and it can't be Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Can't be
No.
Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal.
Yeah, this seems like a lottery team if you just have Booker and Beal in this supporting cast. It's not good enough.
I'm ultimately peace, I think, in the macro though, just because Devin Booker's, I know he's had stuff crop up, but he's never been like not there when it matters.
And they're 5-6. Like if they were like in 2-9 or something, we'd start talking about them like the Grizzlies. Like, is the hole going to get too deep?
Right. And it's like, so they're 5-6 and in the top 12 of both offense and defense.
Yeah.
Right now. Like that's and the defense is like, I don't know if I would say shocked, but I mean, they're 12th in defense while allowing 68% shooting at the rim. I would say the 3-point shooting, they probably gotten a little lucky on. Opponents 35% there. We're saying that about a lot of teams right now. 'Tis the season for it,
right.
But it's a piece for me. The next team is the Portland Trailblazers. This is probably too, maybe not for this podcast. It's too niche. It's DeAndre Ayton's offensive usage. I actually don't think that he's been bad for Portland. And I don't say that like it's a debate that he's been terrible, but a lot of people probably look at his numbers on offense and be like, well, like, this is clear. He's not able to do more. And I really think it's more so there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. The injuries have hurt because DeAndre Ayton needs people to get him the ball. And look at who's out. Anthony Simons, Malcolm Brogdon, Scoot Henderson, probably the 3 players who are most important to getting him the ball. That being said, that should impact, to me, his roll man volume, which it has. Like he's not used finishing roll man possessions as frequently as he was last year. But when it comes to just overall touches, like are post-ups the most efficient play in the world from him? Not even close, but it would behoove the Blazers to explore them. He had more post-up possessions per game with the Suns last year. And then overall his touches, 33 front court touches per 36 minutes last year. That's down to 24.3 this year. His usage rate has plummeted into the 16s to a career low. His usage rate in the fourth quarter, Grant, 13.9. I understand it comes down to, do you have people who can get him the ball? It's not hard to just give him the ball and say, let's see what you can do with it then. So go try this out. Isn't that the whole reason why you have him? His defense has been pretty good. He's been great on the glass for them, but like he's had to rely a little bit more on putbacks than he would in Phoenix. And part of that is the Blazers are going to miss a bunch of shots. I know they're all over the place right now, and just having Jeremy Grant and Shaedon Sharpe do a lot on ball. Get DeAndre Ayton the ball and just see what happens. And so I don't know if this is like can you panic over this? But if you're trying to get the maximum amount of information possible on the player that DeAndre Ayton can be, arguably now is the time to do it with all these guard injuries, and you're not doing it. And look, to me, that's another fundamental failure from the coaching staff, specifically Chauncey Billups, who were 2+ seasons now into is it 2+ seasons? It's not 1+, right? Last year was his second season, right?
I think that's right.
So I'm like, you can't say you're out on the Chauncey Billups experience, but like get DeAndre Ayton the ball, because I don't understand why it needs to be so difficult. And if it's because you don't trust him with it, then that's a bigger problem as to, okay, well, like why did you acquire him in the first place if you didn't think there was a higher usage offensive player there?
You know what I'm panicking about?
I'm glad I wasn't. I'm like, I've lost all concept of time. Like, has he really been the coach for over 2 seasons?
DeAndre Ayton has played 347 minutes this year. He has attempted 5 free throws. 5. He made them all, so that's good news. He's 5 for 5.
The best free throw shooter in NBA history.
The greatest of all time. He's on pace to set the record this year. That's like, I don't care what else is happening. Like, I don't care that they don't have any healthy guards. I don't care that Skylar Mays is now the guy that is primarily tasked with, and I guess you throw Shaedon Sharpe in there, who's just still is still learning how to do stuff as an NBA player. We really like Shaedon Sharpe. He's going to be really good. He's not a point guard. There's no scenario where a starting NBA center who has played every game for his team, all 11 games, played almost 350 minutes, has attempted 5 free throws. Like that's not on Chauncey Billups. That's not, I mean, everybody shares some of the blame, but that's just like, that is a crippling lack of aggression. And the guy has 31 offensive rebounds. So like take a couple of those back up maybe and get fat. So I'm panicking because a lot of the stuff that we did not like about Deandre, I say we, like the NBA community or whatever, like knocked Deandre Ayton for, doesn't go to the basket hard, avoids contact, just not make plays, is not in there to do the dirty work. Like 5 free throws in 350 minutes is a damning number. So like I'm panicking on that front, not just because I thought that Ayton was going to have maybe the guards being there would have made a difference, was going to just be better and just going to get to try explore the space, get shots up. Like he doesn't seem to be doing anything, at least from an aggression standpoint. So like I'm panicking there because that's like, I cannot wrap my head around 5 free throws on a season for a starting center that has been healthy all year. That's nuts.
2.6% foul rate on paint touches.
Ridiculous.
Very low.
Like just run in. It's almost like that's hard to do. Like that's actually difficult to do.
So my whole thing though still is just like he also doesn't, it's not a symptom of him not getting the ball enough. That foul rate should be higher and he should definitely have more free throws. But like how are you not getting him the ball more? I don't care what your guard situation is. If anything, because of the players you're missing, it should be more critical to get him the ball.
We agree.
The next team will be the Sacramento Kings. So I have the Harrison Barnes regression here, and this comes with the caveat that he started off last season like overwhelmingly slow. However, this year, after that kind of first game where he dropped, what did he drop? 31 points, 32 points.
30s for sure.
Yeah, it was 32 points. His efficiency is just, it's in the gutter. And so it's gotten to the point where the past couple games, like you've yanked him during higher leverage minutes. Didn't play at all in the fourth quarter of that win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so even when the efficiency is fine, it's in such low volume. He's shooting 34.2% from 3 since the that first game where he went off for 33 points. It actually was. We had that wrong. He does not look good on defense. And so, look, he doesn't make too much money. And you can imagine that the efficiency is going to come up. But like when you're the Kings and you look at the makeup of the lineups that you throw out there without Harrison Barnes, is it, oh, well, Keegan Murray's going to start hitting more of his threes eventually, and he's made the leap defensively, so it doesn't matter? Or is there a little bit of panic here because it's, well, we were already short on these combo forwards to begin with, and now if Harrison Barnes can't close or can't be relied upon to play heavier minutes or higher leverage minutes, that's a real problem. So are you a piece or panic there with the Harrison Barnes start?
I think, well, you said it. They came into the year they have too many guards and not enough wings on the roster. There's too many, like even like Chris Duarte is not someone that I feel great about. He's not a combo forward. That was like one of their main offseason additions. So Barnes is like, especially for a team that I think believed that based on last year, it was good enough that it could essentially run it back and bank on improvement of just based on how they operated, extending Sabonis, not making any major acquisitions. Like that is a problem. It's hard for me to get to full panic on, because I think Barnes is maybe they're no higher than their 4th most important player, maybe 5th,
Fox,
depending on
bonus, Murray, Monk. I would probably argue is more important.
Yeah, Monk is the one I was kind of hemming and hawing over. Certainly Monk has the ability to just win them, the playoff games that they think they're going to be in. They will be in, I think. But yeah, I can't quite get to panic. I mean, they're
14th in defense. So just because, look, Fox and Murray have made real strides.
I mean, this is like, we could have panicked about their record and, some of the offense looking bad. Like this team just is De'Aaron Fox. And if De'Aaron Fox is healthy, I think they are what they were last year. And if he's not, we saw it happen because he missed time with that ankle.
Look, I'm not going to lie. And this means that I was wrong about them in the offseason. They feel like, yeah, I'm going to say this. If they figure out a way to trade for OG Anunoby or a player who's on that level. So let's say like, what is OG Anunoby, the 50th best player in the league? Or just someone who would
like matters in such a specific way to them that he's better than, you know what I mean? Like
if they find that player where someone who hits threes and can defend a bunch of different positions. And I know people say, well, that's what every team wants. I'm not talking about someone who needs ball skills. They don't need to defend all 5 positions like OG Anunoby. This team will be the second best team in the Western Conference if they find that player behind the Nuggets.
I think it's possible. I would still have playoff questions just because I think Sabonis presents so many problems on a playoff team. But yeah, like in terms of regular season, the other thing they have, like it feels like the West is kind of like everybody's a little bit of a mess other than Denver and I guess Minnesota. But like, the Warriors have their issues. The Grizzlies fell apart. The Suns can't be healthy. Everybody's kind of in a weird state of flux. And like the Kings, one thing the Kings do have is continuity. So like we understand we understand like how this works. Like they have an identity. Their offensive system is, best offense ever last year. All that stuff hasn't been good this year, but Fox being out is the reason for that. Like they are a team, like, is there a better one player away team than the Kings? Like, I think they're the quintessential, get the right guy. It's just Anunoby. Like that just is who it is.
I guess, could you see because the way they play and because of Keegan Murray's leap, like if they were the team that acquired Alex Caruso?
I mean, it's like, look, anyone that can guard and like Mitchell's just too small like that. And he's not a good enough shooter. So like, he's just he's going to need to get better. He's either going to need to grow or become a 40% 3-point shooter to really be like an impact guy. He's awesome on the ball against 1s and 2s, but like, he's not a good enough offensive player to matter. Like Caruso, I think would be better. He's a little bigger. But like, it's just the wing. It's just that combo forward that you can move around and put on the other team's best guy that would just put them over the top. I think
because they already have like I'll call it the decision-making defense down because like they're allowing the right shots. Like they're not a great
last year too.
They're not a great rim protecting team and opponents are hitting their threes, yet they have an above average defense because they have the best location effective field goal percentage, which is like the expected field goal percentage based on the shots you allow. So now if you just throw like someone who's really talented on defense and it feels right now like their defense is more predicated on one, allowing the right types of shots and then just getting set because their offense is so good. Now, if you throw someone who's actually elite in one area anywhere who isn't going to torpedo your offense. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Next team is the San Antonio Spurs. So this is sort of like I understand that the Spurs are rebuilding and they're probably willing to take this trade-off, but I have the concessions being made with this Jeremy Sochan at point guard experiment to where Wemby's efficiency is so much better when Trey Jones is on the court. This comes from Dan Devine at Yahoo Sports. Wembanyama is averaging 38.2 points per 100 possessions with Jones on the floor. Shooting 65.4% on 2-pointers and 36.4% on threes. When Jones is off the floor, those numbers dip to 25.5 per 100 on just 41.2% shooting inside the arc and 25.5% beyond it. That's like, look, this is rookie stuff. Wemby's been really inefficient through the first 3 quarters still when you look at the splits and then come on in the 4th quarter. But you also had Jeremy Sochan talking about how exhausted he is from trying to run the offense and then playing such a big defensive role on the perimeter. And so I'm just sort of wondering, like, did the Spurs miscalculate here a little bit and not understand the cost of experimentation? They're not supposed to be good, so that this is fine. But if you're trying to maximize Wemby, shouldn't this be more about putting him in lineups the most where he's going to work from the jump? And that's not an insult to Jeremy Sochan, but like, if you want him to run point guard, doesn't it make more sense than to have him come off the bench and do it so that lightens his load in theory? So I don't know if that's a traditional piece or panic because you can't piece or panic about the record or the fact that the defense is bad, even though they have Wemby. He's actually improving the defense when he's on the court. And so just where they're at, it's tough to come up with panic. And I would default to peace here because I do think they're gaining valuable information and that these reps will be valuable for Jeremy Sochan. I just feel like I don't want to call them reps to nowhere. I just feel like you're giving reps to the model that is not going to wind up being what's most important for your most important player.
And I think not only that, but like, is there really a future where the Spurs are a great team and Jeremy Sochan is the point guard? Because like, for that to be the case, he's gonna need to, I think, he's gonna need to be able to do, I don't know, like run a pick and roll and shoot like a pull-up jumper, or like do like more, like when defenders go under the screen, you've got to be able to just quickly fire off a three from above the break. Like I mean, again, like I said, Giddey's 21. Someone's younger than that. So like, yeah, I mean, all things are possible, I suppose. So like, I guess it's worth exploring that. But I think that is I don't know if it's a piece or panic, but this is to me like the central issue so far, which is like, are you pursuing the development of one player at the cost of another? And you're sort of choosing the wrong one, right? Like, because there's nobody more important than Wembanyama to the future of the Spurs, obviously. So like the argument is very easy to make that you should just do everything you possibly can to foster his development. And if that means that Jeremy Sochan doesn't like, get to fully reach his ceiling, or is kind of, backburnered or whatever, like, yeah, that's how it works. Like everybody has to sort of step aside if you can't, serve the ultimate goal, which is to just make Wembanyama as good as he can be. I also don't know if the Spurs are sure yet what Wembanyama is going to do in terms of a role ultimately. So it's like, maybe they'll try him at point guard pretty soon. I don't know. Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I guess I can't panic about it, just because, like, I understand the thinking a little bit, but it does seem, it's actually, this isn't the first time I've heard this like brought up, as like, why are we trying this if it's maybe stunting Wembanyama's growth a little bit? But it's like, it also means the Spurs are going to lose a lot because he's obviously not a good point guard yet. So that's good too. We want that. I don't know. I think if the numbers you cited like hold true for the full year, then you kind of are doing your best player a little bit of a disservice. But like, I don't know. It's, for now, I think it's okay. I guess ultimately I'm not super convinced that Sochan is going to be the point guard of the future. So like, maybe
it feels like more of, it could maybe be a weapon in your tool belt rather than what you're building your entire offense around.
Maybe that speaks to how high they are on him. Like,
I love Jeremy Sochan. I think he's going to be a really good player, but it's just when you have Wemby, and this will get into the, all of a sudden the Chet Holmgren versus Wemby for Rookie of the Year. I think you could go either way at this point. Mm-hmm. Chet has definitely been more effective in his minutes, but the Thunder have been a good job sort of, I feel like, buttoning up his role. I don't want to say like limiting him, but like where Wemby sort of, not even just full on experimental, but like the things they ask him to do on defense and how much different things he's trying to cover. And then on offense, it's, well, if he had a Shea or like a Giddey or just someone who could put him in the right spots, like he would probably be a lot more. The fact that he's shooting over 50% on twos right now is honestly a minor miracle based off what's needed to happen in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think Chet is being set up to, like, yeah, you're right. It's weird because it's like they're not limiting him, but it's like Chet takes certain kinds of shots within the offense all the time, and Wemby is just like, I don't know, just wherever it seems much less structured, which I guess is a symptom of not having a real point guard. Like that's kind of just what it is.
Speaking of not having a real point guard, let's move on to the Utah Jazz.
Whoa.
I believe that they do have a real point guard in Keyonte George. Now, the piece or panic is just, do they, and it's not going to be, I think there were fans of the Jazz that expected them to be better or like more competitive this year, or their record to be better this year. And it's just, when you had that turnover at the trade deadline, and then you kind of, you got John Collins last offseason, but you didn't have that floor general acquisition. It was pretty clear that this was going to be a rough season. But is there a piece or panic? It's kind of the similar vein of the Spurs. Did they do a disservice to not necessarily their best player in Larry Markkinen, who's been great this year? The fact that he's played so well, despite the absence of a true floor general, is actually really good for them. But Walker Kessler, when he was healthy, not as good as on offense. It's been very hard. The Walker Kessler, John Collins minutes have been really tough for them. They've looked a lot better when they have sort of John Collins at the 5. And that's not where you're going to go long term. So yes, Keyonte George is in there now, but is it a piece or panic when you're looking at their absence of that floor general? They're dead last in turnover rate this season. The organization is not always there on the offensive end. And I feel like offense should be, with the types of lineups they're running out, should also be their defining principle with some of the stuff they could do. And so did they miss the mark by not having a veteran floor general where, forget about Keyonte George for a second, your best passer is Jordan Clarkson after that?
It might be Kelly Olynyk, honestly. I think so Markkanen, there are parallels to what we were talking about with the Spurs a little bit, and then there aren't, because Markkanen's 26. He's in his prime. We have a rough idea of what he is. Sure, would it be great if he had Mike Conley to set him up? Like, yeah, for sure. His numbers might be even better. But it's not the same thing as, because who are there other for sure? Oh, this guy is a core developmental piece. I guess it's George. I guess it's Kessler, who's sort of he's not really out there for offense anyway. And then after that, I don't know. Are we down to Agbaji? I guess Hendricks doesn't play, so
have to be Agbaji for now, I would think. Yeah.
So I guess yeah. It's always rough. It always makes things harder if you don't have the adult in the room point guard. But at the same time, I think George just needs to play and develop, and then if by midseason he's capable, then great. But it's not the same. Costing Markkanen, developmental time is not the same thing to me. So it's not. I don't think it's a panic. I guess it's peace. It's, if you thought the Jazz were going to improve on last year's record, then I guess yeah, you can panic. But I don't think either of us saw that in the cards for them.
I'm a piece as well. I am just curious as to, there still are challenges, even if you put, even if Keyonte George is first team all rookie from here on out, he might be right now.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you had a more proven floor general in here, does the Collins Kessler pairing sort of Markkanen has proven he could fit into a dynamic like that, but are you doing a disservice to both of those guys by playing them together? And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think yeah. I just think Collins is not someone that matters ultimately in the big picture of the Jazz franchise. So it's I think he was just, this is a distressed asset that makes Danny Ainge, I think, saw John Collins for the price he was available for and was yeah, well, yes, we will take him, because I think at some point we'll be able to trade him for more than that or whatever. So it doesn't bother me so much that it is a weird fit. And Kessler's, I don't know. I'm really high on Kessler as a defender, obviously, but I'm not sure that he's someone that you need to cater to or worry about his development, just because I don't think, at least offensively, there's not a lot of room for him to develop. I think he's just going to be a defense only center that can dunk, and that's just what he is. So I guess I'm not, if you eventually get him a good point guard, then yeah, he'll get a couple more easy buckets a game, but it's not stunting some growth trajectory that was going to make him an all-star or anything.
I do feel we kind of saw flashes of it last year, and not at all this year, which I do think comes back to kind of the absence of a floor general. He can make some of the quicker passes.
Yeah.
Once he's you don't want him putting the ball on the floor to do it, but that's something he could do. And that's that's something that Rudy Gobert was never super great at. And so if you're able to do that, that is another dynamic. I just don't know, how long does it take to get there if George is the guy and you don't have any other guy? I feel they could have benefited from, there wasn't someone out there to say, well, let's make the John Collins trade, but it's for a point guard. Yeah. That wasn't out there for them, but it might be something for them to consider doing after this season, where it's not about accelerating the timeline. It comes back to the Fred VanVleet acquisition in Houston, where, okay, they're really good right now, but it's someone who doesn't necessarily infringe upon development or accelerate your timeline. He just helps streamline it for everybody else.
Yeah. I think if I'm panicking about anything for Utah, it's that other than George, as we just illustrated, I don't know who the core pieces are. Who are the guys are going to be 5 years from now that you're banking on being really great? I think being better than they meant to be last year and maybe sucking this year in a way worse draft. That could be a pretty big missed opportunity, to put it pretty mildly.
Stat padding time. Going to be a shorter one because I can't fucking speak, and I really hope. Has my voice been so bad? Has it been?
You sound like Stan Van Gundy in that one game he called where he just everybody was.
I kind of feel like Doc Rivers. That's what I sound like.
Doc Rivers. Yeah, you've got to get out of the coaching game.
So let's start with. I have a couple guest players for you. Okay. Guest players for you. These first two come from Rubik's Gal. Thank you as always. I've not answered your past few Discord messages because I am borderline dying over here, but thank you for sending these over. All right, clue number 1, Grant. I won a bronze medal each in my first 3 major national tournaments: the Olympics, the FIBA World Cup, where I was the MVP, and the Eurobasket.
Okay.
That's clue number 2. At my next attempt at the Olympics, I picked up a silver medal to add to my collection. I then added gold medals at the FIBA Eurobasket. I also took home the MVP and the FIBA World Cup.
So this guy is just an absolute stud in international. Can I just Pau Gasol?
It is not Pau Gasol.
Okay.
Clue number 3. How was I doing at the club level in Europe? Back-to-back EuroLeague champs and top scorer in one of those finals. Not too bad.
Okay, not getting it.
Clue number 4. The EuroLeague wins put me on the radar for NBA teams, and I was drafted as the 60th overall pick by the Blazers.
Rudy Fernandez?
No, what a guess, though. I like that one.
He might have been a lottery pick.
Yeah, I think he was. Clue number 5. I played for Real Madrid for 1 season and won the top scorer honors along with the Spanish Cup, Copa del Rey, before I joined the Blazers squad.
So this guy's was a Blazer, and that's my Rudy Fernandez guess. And he's Spanish. I guess I can't. This doesn't work. I don't get to ask you questions.
Are you just gonna ask me if it was Rudy Fernandez again?
Fernandez, Rudy. No, go. Do you have any more? I don't know.
Yeah, we've got 4 more.
All right.
Clue number 6. I predicted that my only obstacle to success in the NBA would be playing time, and I was proved right as Rick Adelman treated me like a catch-and-shoot sniper instead of trusting me with the ball. With my minutes dwindling, I insisted on being traded to a different team. I was granted my wish midway through the season and traded to New Jersey, where I got increased minutes but still came off the bench.
Oh, and now I'm starting to get there. So this is the Adelman Blazers. This is the 60th pick with a bunch of international. And he got into to the Nets, you said?
Correct.
And you said the New Jersey Nets.
Correct.
Oh, God. All right. Give me the next one.
Who would be the other team in New Jersey that you were thinking?
Well, I was thinking it was the Brooklyn Nets. It was going to give me more information, but that wouldn't have made sense with Adelman at the Blazers.
Clue number 7. Over the next 2 seasons, I helped bring playoff basketball back to the Nets, starting in 149 out of 152 games, leading my team in points, field goal percentage, and 3-point percentage.
Oh, my God. How do I not know this? The 60th pick did all that?
Right? Clue number 8. Final 2 clues here. I was widely regarded as perhaps the best jump shooter of my time, and perhaps of all time.
Well,
I think you'll get it after this one.
I mean, I don't know why I don't have it already.
9th and final clue.
All right.
I passed away in a car accident on the Autobahn in 1993, and my number was retired
by
Drazen
Petrovic.
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. I was like, Adelman threw me. I thought I was way later in time than that. All right. Yeah. Jeez Louise. Okay. Drazen Petrovic. Sorry. It took me way too long. 93. I was off by I don't know what I was doing with the Adelman Blazers in the timeline there.
All right, next one. Clue number 1. Born in Chester, Pennsylvania, I played small forward for Chester High, where I set the school rebound record. I took my high school to the state title game in my senior year, where we lost to Lower Merion.
Oh. All right.
Clue number 2. I was a McDonald's All-American and a consensus 5-star recruit, widely regarded as a top 5 small forward. I went to Arizona, where I made a reputation for myself as a fierce scorer, rebounder, and shot blocker, even though I was barely 6'6", never mind the 7'2" wingspan.
Is this Richard Jefferson?
No.
Yeah, he's from LA.
Clue number 3. I was drafted 23rd and played 4 seasons for the Brooklyn Nets during Kenny Atkinson's tenure as coach, most of it as the starting power forward.
Is this Rondé Hollis Jefferson?
Correct.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Redemption.
That was a nice job by you. We have another one from BRich_ATX. Thank you for sending. What's that?
Kendall Gill.
Kendall Gill. Yep, it's Kendall Gill. Okay. Clue number 1. Drafted in the 2nd round in 2025. I was a remarkably durable player.
Wait, sorry. What year was he drafted?
2005.
Okay.
Drafted in the 2nd round in 2005. I was a remarkably durable player, twice leading the league in minutes per game.
Okay.
My career spanned 12 seasons across 4 teams. Never an all-star. I averaged 17.8 points, 4.6 assists, 3.5 rebounds per game.
17, 4, and 3. Drafted in the second round in 05?
Correct.
Okay.
Clue number 3, a certified mid-range inefficient gunner. I only had 1 season with an effective field goal percentage above 50.
Oh, wow. Okay.
These are the final 2 clues.
Ooh.
In 4 of my last 5 seasons, I started 80 plus games per season across 3 different teams, Milwaukee, Dallas, and Indiana. As for some reason, these teams love starting an average offensive, below average defensive combo guard. I then retired at age 31.
Give me those teams again.
Dallas, Milwaukee, Indiana.
And this is like in the 15, 16, 17. Dallas, Milwaukee, Indiana. Like he's 05, 12-year career. So those last 5. Dallas, Milwaukee, Indiana. Oh, man.
You'll get it now. Don't worry. Clue number 5. Hailing from Lanier, Mississippi, I skipped college to jump into a career of taking a zillion long twos for the Golden State Warriors.
Damn it. It's Monte.
Monte Ellis.
Yeah, that hurts.
I thought you were going to get it by clue 3 is what I said to Be Rich when they sent it over.
What was clue 3?
Clue 3 was a certified mid-range inefficient gunner. I only had 1 season with an effective field goal percentage above 500.
I mean, yeah, I should have got it soon. Just the Mississippi did it, and
I thought the clue number 4. I was certain you were going to have it off
with
that
the teams.
Yeah,
I'm bad at that. It jumbles in my mind. If you'd said like ruined his career in a moped accident and lied about it, that would have been a good one. Would have got there for that. Okay, I gotta think a little harder about the source of these guess of players and calibrate my guesses better. Okay. I got a couple for you. They're not guess of players, but do you have more for me, or can I?
Let's go to you first. We can finish mine.
All right. These like a little potpourri here. There's a whole bunch of different ones. All right. Dan, I'm going to give you 4 options. Who has posted a season with at least 150 blocks and 150 made threes? Your options are Jaren Jackson Jr., Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Durant, Brook Lopez.
Only one of those guys has a season of 150 blocks and 150 made threes.
It's also the only one ever.
Holy, Jaren Jackson Jr.
It's Brook Lopez. Sorry. All right. So this is a little different. I want you to tell me which of the 2 players I mentioned scored more total points across the first 5 years of their careers. So from NBA debut to the end of year 5, who had more total points scored? Got it?
No. Yes, I got it.
Dan, who scored more total points in the first 5 years of their career? Devin Booker or Andrew Wiggins?
Andrew Wiggins.
That is correct. You've hacked the game because that seems impossible. These are all close. Wiggins 77-68, Booker 76-83. Steph or Clay?
Ooh, I'm going to say Klay Thompson.
That's 2 in a row for you. 71-12 to 68-14. The injuries for Steph did him in there. SGA or Chris Paul?
Oh man, I'm going to say Chris Paul. He was so featured early on.
You're on fire. 3 in a row. De'Aaron Fox or Buddy Hield?
Oh, Buddy Hield, all the 3s.
Correct. All right, this is to sweep the category. Paul George or Jimmy Butler?
Oh, Paul George.
Correct. And it's close. It's like 50 points separate.
Wow, I would just because Jimmy Butler, the first 2 seasons in Chicago, right? He was barely used.
Yeah, one of the craziest like career growth trajectories in memory is Jimmy Butler just being a total zero that could only defend to capable of being the best offensive player on a finals team. Great. By the way, great job by you. 5 for 5.
I can't cut that one up. No one will want to see me go 5 for 5. Sorry.
No, you got to come up with something where it's just like you just keep getting stars or something. Let's see. Okay, this is I almost feel bad for for doing this one. To you. All right. Dan, I would like you to name 3 active Andres in the NBA. Actually, they don't have to be active. Give me 3 Andres.
They don't have to be active?
No.
But can they be part of their name like DeAndre?
No. It has to be Andre.
Andre Miller,
Correct.
Andre Karolinko,
Ooh, I didn't even think about that one. Weird spelling. I'm gonna accept it.
and Andre Jackson.
Very good. Yeah, we mentioned him on a different pod. Awesome. Dan, name 3 Andrews.
Andrew Wiggins. Oh, do they have to be active?
No.
Andrew Nemhard,
Yep.
Andrew Bynum.
Really good. The Andrews are easier. You could add Bogut, Andrew Nicholson. Remember that guy?
He's still getting paid by the Blazers. Shout out
Andrew Bynum was in there too. All right, let's see. You can take the reins again, and then I have a couple word associations for you.
Okay, so I did one block of word association this time.
Oh boy.
But
I'm terrified to do word association, by the way.
What's that?
I'm terrified of word association.
Do we want to start there? So then you can just go right into your word association then. All right. Sure. So I have a block of 5 here. Word association. Crossover.
Jamal Crawford.
Ooh.
I don't know why. Isn't like the crossover like spelled CRAW his
right. I get it from the nickname. That's just not the one that I would have went to, but that's
no, I don't listen, it's word association. You never know what's gonna happen.
Left-handed.
Derek Fisher. I don't know why.
Oh, that might be that's a great answer.
He's left-handed.
No look.
Magic Johnson. Sorry, that's a lame answer.
Behind the back.
I was going to give you behind the back in my word association. Behind the back. Steve Nash.
Okay. And last one, hit ahead.
Ooh, Lonzo Ball.
Oh, okay. I thought I was convinced you were going to go with Tyrese Halliburton there.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Love came to mind too, but that's more like an outlet thing. Let's see. Do you have another one?
I have more, but I don't have another block of word association ones.
Okay. Let me try this one on you. As you're aware, Dan, Jaylen Brown signed the first ever $300 million contract. Some debate, I guess, on its actual value. I will give you 4 choices. Who signed the first $100 million contract? Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Juwan Howard, or Chris Webber?
Shaquille O'Neal.
It is Juwan Howard. Can you believe that?
Wow.
1996. Moving on. Who signed the first $150 million contract? Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, Steve Francis, or Mike Conley?
Mike Conley.
That's correct. Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
All right. The first $200 million contract. Zach LaVine, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James.
I know for a fact LeBron James has never signed a $200 million contract. I'm going to say Steph Curry.
You're right. You're on fire. Getting all the Andrews and the Andres and the contracts. Yeah, Steph Curry was the first $200 million guy. All right. Take over.
Oh, you want me to go to mine? Okay. So, this one I thought this was a good idea. Which NBA player has hit more go-ahead buzzer beaters in the regular season and playoffs combined?
Okay.
LeBron James or Damian Lillard?
Oh, man. I'm going to say Dame.
It's LeBron, 18-12. It's not even
close. Hey, can we get a LeBron time celebration going?
I mean, it also has to do maybe his longevity a little bit too. But yeah. Look, true. LeBron always passes. He never shoots.
Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
He's criticized for that? Wow.
Kobe Bryant or Chris Paul?
I'm going to say Chris Paul because I think it's the wrong answer.
Chris Paul, 7-5. That is the right answer.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony or Steph Curry?
Melo.
Yes, Melo, 8-6. Jamal Crawford or Derrick Rose?
Jamal Crawford.
Correct, 10-6. You're kind of on fire too, 3 of 4. Tim Duncan or Michael Jordan?
Ooh. Again, sticking with, I'm going to pick the wrong answer, Tim Duncan, because it'll be right.
Tim Duncan, 7-6 over Michael Jordan.
I figured you out now, Dan.
Devin Booker or Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant.
No, it's Devin Booker, 6-5.
Damn it. Went away
James Harden or Dirk Nowitzki?
Harden.
No, Dirk Nowitzki, 5-4.
Ooh.
Giannis Antetokounmpo or Anthony Davis?
Oh, wow. Giannis.
Nope, Anthony Davis, 6-4. Manu Ginobili or Jason Kidd?
Manu Ginobili.
Yes, 4-3 over Kidd. And finally, DeMar DeRozan or Allen Iverson?
I mean, DeMar DeRozan had like 3 last year, a couple years. So I'll say DeRozan.
That is correct. 8 to 7. You didn't. So what'd you get? 7 to 10. That's pretty good.
I don't know. Well, by the way, I was going to take Ginobili no matter who the second person was, just on principle. Let's see. Okay, I have some word association, but then that's all I got for you.
Okay, so give me that, and then I have a few more for you.
All right. I kind of stole the Andrews and Andres from word association, so the second batch will be a little shorter. All right. Ready, Dan? Word association. Marcin Gortat.
Beard.
I was gonna say the
Thanks, Marcin Gortat screen.
The screen, the like where he rolls and he knocks the defender out of the way so the driver can score. Okay. Spain.
Pick and roll.
Fab Five.
Michigan.
Can you name the members of the Fab Five?
No, Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, and then I'm done.
Oh, well, we already talked about Juwan Howard.
Juwan Howard. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a college or historical aficionado.
All right. Ray Jackson, Jimmy King. Those are the other two. Elbow
Did you know
touch.
those off the top of your head?
I read the Fab Five book that Mitch Albom wrote when I was like 12 or something. And so like I remember a weird amount I remember a guy named Eric Riley was a backup center on that team. Rob Pelinka was on that team. I think people know that. But yeah, anyway. Steve Fisher was the coach. That's probably all I know. Okay, elbow touch.
Ooh, my God. Jokic.
Yeah. Gerald Wallace.
Traded to the Celtics. I have no idea.
I feel this is like cruel to do to you while you're sick. It's a mean thing to do.
I do. The first thing I think of his name, it probably should be his defense, but I think of like wasn't he part of the KG trade in some form? Was he traded from the Celtics to the Nets or something?
He might have been. I remember he had a dunk where he like hung on the rim with one arm and like spun all the way around, and it looks like his shoulder should like separate.
I've never seen that dunk.
Oh, it's rough. And he's fine because Gerald Wallace was like uninjurable for a while. All right. Let's see. Last 3 little quick ones here. Back tapped rebound.
Tyson Chandler.
That is the only correct answer. Thank you for getting that one. Pivot game.
Mello.
Weirdest shooting form.
KJ Martin. Kevin Martin. Sorry.
Okay. That was the first name I thought of too. That's all I have. What other weird shooting forms have there been?
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton.
That's a weird one.
Michael K. Gilchrist.
We talked. Oh man, remember that one? That was really bad. Anthony Mason had a funky. She like cupped the ball. All right.
Yeah, someone had like a really jagged one that I can't remember.
And we talked about Bill Cartwright last time, but that was mostly free throws because he never shot otherwise.
Okay, so I have a few more for you. There have been, Grant, 6 players in NBA history who are 6'6" or shorter that have finished a season with at least 100 steals and 100 blocks. I'm going to separate them into 2 groups. You have to pick the one that does not belong. So which player 6'6" or under did not have 100 steals or 100 blocks in any given season?
Okay.
Charles Barkley, Gar Hurd, Draymond Green, Vince Carter.
Oh, Gar Hurd is like one of those people that I am aware played in the NBA for a long time, but I could not pick him out of a lineup or tell you who he played for. I don't think so. I'm just going to say Gar Hurd.
That is incorrect. It is Vince Carter. Gar Hurd is tied for the most seasons in league history with that. Him and Charles Barkley each had 3 seasons of 100 steals plus 100 blocks.
That's interesting. I don't think of Barkley as like an active defender, but it must have been young Barkley. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the 80s. So yeah. Okay. Which player 6'6" or under did not have a season of at least 100 steals and 100 blocks? Michael Jordan, Clarence Weatherspoon, Dwayne Wade, or Latrell Sprewell?
I know Sprewell had the steals, but I don't think he had the blocks. And you can't put Michael Jordan in there and not have him do it. Wade had a lot of blocks. Who was the 4th one?
So we have Jordan, Clarence Weatherspoon, Dwayne Wade, Latrell Sprewell.
I'm going to say Sprewell.
That is correct. He did not have the blocks.
He averaged over 2 steals a couple times, I think, though. He was a All NBA first teamer, Latrell Sprewell, one year. How about that?
Hey, he had to feed his family. All right, I have like a couple. This one is okay. Championship on the line. NBA championship on the line. Would you bet on? What's the best way to phrase this? NBA championship on the line. What would you trust more? A Yusuf Nurkic contested layup or DeAndre Ayton self-created dunk?
Oh my god. The DeAndre Ayton self-created dunk has never been witnessed, and therefore I'm not sure it exists. So I have to take the Nurkic layup, which is like a 30% proposition.
To be fair, he's shooting like 48% at the rim this year, so it's a
But
little bit better than that.
you said contested, so I don't know what that's gonna knock it down to.
Would you rather be the first NBA player to dunk from the 3-point line or be the first NBA player to record a quintuple double?
Oh wow. Give me the quintuple double. Because like Wemby's probably going to dunk from the 3-point line 2 or 3 times this year. So then I wouldn't be the only one.
Wemby's going to dunk from the 3-point line 2 or 3 times. That suddenly seems like the only answer that you can give now.
Well, Wemby might also get a quintuple double too. But if we're going to harken back to a few weeks ago and I thought he was going to get 17 blocks or whatever it was.
And let's make this the last one because I have no voice. I feel like anyone who's listened this long probably hates themselves right now. So I'm stealing this from the inverse of what we did already. Which NBA star were you convinced would be a bust?
Oh, great question. Which NBA star was I convinced was going to be a bust? Oh man, that's really tough. Because do you have one in mind to jog my thinking?
I'll give you mine. There is, if you Google VanVleet, Kawhi Leonard bust, there are Reddit threads about what I wrote. I said he would never be able to shoot and that his defense would not translate to the NBA. I may have missed on that.
Listen, I'm trying to like let me pull up like a list of this year's leaders because I'm like really struggling to think of a star that I have a lot more of the opposite where I was just wrong about them. I thought they were going to be good and then they weren't.
Yeah, because it's not like, I think a lot of people would be like, well, what about Jokic? It's like, well, you didn't have expectations of someone drafted 90th overall during a Taco Bell commercial. So you didn't, like, you can't be a bust during that.
Oh, so I don't know if there's a Reddit thread about it, but I'm pretty sure that I was a big Jason Tatum doubter because I remember I could never get over I think I read in more than one place and just watching him at Duke that he was like, yeah, he's really good at creating contested 2-point jumpers. And I was like, oh, well, I'm out on Carmelo Anthony just on principle. And I don't want another Carmelo Anthony type. I didn't think Jason Tatum was going to be nearly as good as he became. I'm trying to think who else. Oh, I just thought of a ridiculous one. This will date me too. I believe that watching LeBron James high school clips, and this is all when like he's on Sports Illustrated as an 18-year-old or whatever. I think the comparison I made was he has like Paul Pierce level athleticism, and therefore it definitely was a Paul Pierce comparison because he just did. I don't know what I saw, but he seemingly was not going to be like an otherworldly athlete. Which, if you watched any basketball over the last 20 plus years, he in fact was an otherworldly athlete, and I was wrong about that. So that one hurts. That was a rough one.
Wow. I don't think I ever said that about LeBron. Could say that.
You never made the Paul Pierce comparison, the notoriously unathletic Paul Pierce?
Do you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, I think we better since we just both of us revealed that we thought Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James were going to suck.
They were. So I remember the article. I was in my early 20s. I wouldn't write it now if I was asked to. And I had to identify players I thought were going to be busts. When you look at the hit rate, I actually didn't do too bad when you go back and look. But I forget who else was on there.
Oh, I was going to ask
you
who
look,
else.
I can Google it. I can Google it right now. VanVleet, Kawhi Leonard bust, and see who else was on there. But I found multiple Reddit threads because I was looking for what I said specifically, and I was like, oh, I can't find the article. And it popped up in Reddit, but now I can't find it for some reason. But I said his defense wouldn't translate. I can't remember who else was on there. If I hit the Reddit search for it, let's see if it comes
as
up.
you're searching, I definitely now I remember I thought LaMelo was going to be a bust because I oversimplified it and thought
So did
like,
the Warriors front office apparently.
well, yeah. I just thought, well, he's not a good enough shooter, and if you're a guard who can't shoot, then that's just not going to work. And then he could shoot. He can't finish, but he could shoot.
I can't find me calling Kawhi Leonard a draft bust now for some reason. I found all these results the other day, and
That company you paid to scrub it from the internet did a good job.
oh wait, here we go. I found the article. So I had Nikola Mirotic on there.
Okay, well,
That's
he got
wrong,
punched.
but he did leave the NBA.
Yeah,
Norris Cole.
Jesus, we've been doing this for way too long.
This one's bad. Jonas Valanciunas.
Okay, well,
Corey Joseph.
Still in the NBA.
Donatas Motiejunas.
Had a minute there. He was,
Kawhi Leonard. I'm just looking at the full blurb of.
Well, I'm trying to think back, like, because
Leonard's lack of versatility will be exposed in the NBA, leaving the Spurs with a taste of disappointment, and Leonard sporting the label of bust.
I'm not just saying this, but I definitely remember the thought being, this guy's a 6'7" power forward that can't shoot. Like, what's he supposed to be?
I feel like I probably wasn't the only one to say his shooting wouldn't translate, but for me to say that his defense wouldn't translate is pretty egregious.
I mean, look, yeah, you were wrong, but like, I definitely remember Leonard being a weird prospect because, like, how good is he really if he went to San Diego State? Like, and he fell to the 15th pick or something? I can't remember. Do you remember what pick
Leonard was drafted? Wasn't he 16th? Or maybe he was 15th. He was traded for George Hill. I know that one.
Oh my God. I talk about a bad take. I remember for a long time thinking like, well, that worked out for both teams because George Hill was pretty good for a while.
He was drafted 15th. You were right. Yeah. So I also had Markieff Morris. And I wrote, not to sound incredibly harsh, but what exactly were the Phoenix Suns thinking? Oh, this one was, I know he's still in the NBA, but Bismack Biyombo of the Charlotte Hornets at number 7.
Yeah, that's not a good pick. That I think that's a correct bust analysis.
Brandon Knight of the Detroit Pistons.
Man,
that was just wrong. I mean, his peak was short, but he had a higher peak. This one's interesting relative to where he was drafted. Tristan Thompson, number 4.
I mean, that's kind of you need more than what he became at number 4, right? Like, I don't think that's a bad call.
I mean, it's pretty bad, I would say. Jimmer Fredette, I would say, worked.
You nailed that one, yeah.
Oh, and then apparently, but it was saying I didn't think he was gonna. I mean, it's still wrong. I had Kyrie Irving in the vein of I don't think he was gonna be worth the number 1 pick.
I mean, that's up for debate. We should have it, or not. We should. Should we?
Are you kidding? That's not up for debate. Well, I was wrong.
Yeah, I was trying to help you out. Should we have a segment where we go find like 10-year-old stuff that we wrote that was really terrible, or is that
listeners?
Just like,
if you're still here, let us know. We need to do a pod where we get our crowdsource it. Like, just send us the worst basketball take you've had of all time.
I know I just suggested it, but I wonder if that's a door we want to open. I mean, it all exists out there, but like some of it might be like embarrassing. Like, I'm concerned, but
look, maybe we need to be held accountable.
Yeah. Look, it's all still out there. Go find.
No, don't go find it. Look, I'm having Rubik's Gal sent me articles that I wrote like 8 years ago. It has me nervous. Like, the receipts are just there and people have them.
The internet's there forever, Dan. So we're just gonna have to live with it. And we've been putting stuff on it for too long, and it's not all good. Some of it's real stupid.
Do you want to take us out of here?
Yes, and hopefully nobody listened long enough to follow up on that.
I really hope that I didn't ruin this podcast with my Doc Rivers voice.
No, listen, you played hurt, and everyone respects that. So
the photo for this podcast is just going to be, that photo of like Joel Embiid carrying James Harden on his back. That was you during these podcasts. It was me on your back.
Oh man, I just happy to chip in. Everybody, if you've made it this far, congratulations, I guess. you're hurt now too because you put yourself through this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing, following, joining our Discord, buying our merch. If you don't know how to do any of that, I don't know how you made it through an hour and 50 minutes of a podcast without knowing any of that. If that is the case, the information on how to do those things is in the YouTube and podcast description. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's no way anyone's still watching this on YouTube. You follow us on all our socials. Tell your friends.
Low.
Hey guys. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. And as always, we close with a shout out to the one and only Frank Ntilikina and an apology to Jared Allen and Kawhi Leonard because he's a bust apparently.
Hey, Reggie Jackson too. Don't forget about him.
Yeah.